Hello, welcome to English 3, Quest 3, Learning Support for Poetry Analysis. Anytime you're pairing two pieces, it's important that you understand them both before you begin to complete analysis. This is why I'm including TP-Cast as a learning support. Poetry can be pretty tricky sometimes, so whenever you need to break it down so that you can better comprehend a poem, use TP-Cast. We're going to get started. The first step involves looking at the title before reading. So you'll notice that when we look at the title before reading, it is really unclear what the poem is about, but I know that usually with poetry, it includes a topic related to a person's life or an experience or something like that. So I've added a teenager's life. Now we'll read the poem before we move to the paraphrase section. South of the bridge on 17th, I found, back of the willows, one summer day, a motorcycle with engine running as it lay on its side, ticking over slowly in the high grass. I was 15. I admired all that pulsing gleam, the shiny flanks, the demure headlights fringe where it lay. I led it gently to the road and stood with that companion, ready and friendly. I was 15. We could find the end of a road, meet the sky out on 17th. I thought about heels, and patting the handle got back a confident opinion. On the bridge, we indulged a forward feeling, a tremble. I was 15. Thinking, back farther in the grass I found the owner, just coming to, where he had flipped over the rail. He had blood on his hand, was pale. I helped him walk to his machine. He ran his hand over it, called me a good man, roared away. I stood there, 15. All righty. Now that we've read the poem, we're able to begin the paraphrase. If you'll look to the right, I paraphrase stanza by stanza. Because the structure of poems vary, it won't always be this way. You'll have to decide where you want to stop and chunk information for paraphrasing. Let's look at stanza 1's paraphrase. When I was 15, I saw a motorcycle tipped over, motor running, and abandoned on 17th Street. Second paraphrase. I admired the motorcycle. Its bumpers were like a horse's flanks. I moved it carefully like a scared animal to the highway. Paraphrase 3. I began to daydream about the fun I could have on the motorcycle. I petted it like a horse. I felt excited like a cowboy, but also a bit apprehensive. As I was thinking, I discovered the now conscious owner whose hand was injured. I assisted him toward his motorcycle. He thanked me and then raced away. I meditated over what happened at age 15. So we've already looked at the title before reading. We've looked at the paraphrase. Now we're able to look at the connotation of words. If you look at the words that are highlighted yellow, this is where we'll discuss connotation, or how the words relate to emotion or feeling. When you find something, found, past tense, is essentially a time of excitement for the most part. When something is worth finding, it's a good thing. So that's a positive connotation. We know that the motorcycle is lying on its side. For the most part, lying on your side can mean sleeping or resting, but in this case, we know that motorcycles are supposed to be upright. So this has a negative connotation. Additionally, the ticking over slowly has a negative connotation because motorcycles are not meant to tick like clocks. Now we're moving back to positive connotation with admired, pulsing gleam, shiny, demure, fringed as in fancy. All those things connote positivity, attractiveness. Pulsing is excitement. Admiring something means you want it or you want to be like it. And so we have a lot of positive connotation with these words. Let it gently. That has a positive connotation. Stood with that companion. We know companion is another way to say a friend, and so that has a positive connotation. Ready and friendly, positive connotation. We could find, meet the sky. again, a sense of adventure. And for the most part, adventure can be positive. Usually people look at adventure as something that's fun. Patting the handle, confident opinion, positive connotations. When someone pats a pet, it's usually a show of endearment. Confident is a good feeling. Courageous, it definitely carries a positive connotation. A tremble carries a negative connotation in that it usually relates to fear when you tremble or being cold, and those are not necessarily good feelings. Let's look at stanza 4. I found the owner. He had flipped. So finding, again, has a positive connotation. But when we look at flipped, and we know that it's a person that flipped, not intentionally, that carries a negative connotation because flipping can be dangerous and people can get hurt. We know that blood has a negative connotation. Pale has a negative connotation. I helped, negative connotation, in that a person who owns a motorcycle should definitely be able to walk to his motorcycle and ride it. Otherwise, there's the fear that he's going to be unsteady and re-injure himself. So again, I helped him has a negative connotation, and roared away comes back to the positivity. We know that roaring comes from a lion, and a lion is strong and he's the king of the jungle, and so roared away is empowering, and it's a positive connotation again. Okay, so we have some back and forth. There are some conflicting feelings going on in this particular situation. So we've reviewed the title before we read, we've paraphrased, we've looked at the connotation of the words in the poem. Now we're ready for attitude. We want to look at the speaker's attitude as we go through the poem. And again, I did it by stanza, but you won't always be able to do it by stanza. You may have to do it by sections that you create based on what the author is actually saying through the poet's persona. So when we look at the first analysis of attitude, the speaker seems relaxed. He has a relaxed attitude toward the day and toward the events. Next, his attitude shifts to admiration when he looks at the motorcycle and he notices all of the bells and whistles. He admires the motorcycle and perhaps the motorcyclist, and so there's a attitude of admiration. Then we look at stanza 3 and we see that the attitude is more enthusiastic because he's envisioning a possible adventure on this motorcycle. When we look at stanza 4, we can see that the attitude changes yet again to one of concern. And finally, at the end, the attitude is more reflective about what has happened. And he's actually remembering this as an adult, so it's definitely more reflective toward the end. Now we're ready to look at the shifts, and that is a change in how you feel as you move through the poem from section to section. Something can be happy and then something can turn sad. In this particular case, we have several shifts because, again, there's some conflicting emotion going on here. So here we have a shift from matter of fact to interest. So at first he's just kind of hanging out, and then he becomes interested in the motorcycle. Next, we have a shift from admiration to exhilaration. So he admires the motorcycle and the way it looks, and the possibilities make him more exhilarated. So he goes from admiration to feeling this excitement, where he feels like he can jump on this motorcycle and ride off into the sunset, so to speak. Then he moves from excitement to concern, so there's another shift. And finally, we have a shift here at the end from worried, because he's looking at this man's hand that has blood on it and he's pale and he has to help him, to being more thoughtful or reflective, as we talked about over here. So the shift and the attitude, or shift in attitude, is what you could look for in some poems. Okay. Now that we've looked at the title, we've paraphrased, we've looked at the connotation of these words that are highlighted, words and phrases, that are highlighted in yellow, and we've gone over some of the shifts, we're ready to talk about a theme. A theme, again, is a lesson or message that the author intends for the audience to receive. And here, our theme is what seems appealing to youth may lose its appeal when they become adults who realize the danger, or who realize danger. I'm going to take out the, okay? Now we're ready to look at the title for the last time. That's the last step in TPCast. And when we look at the title now, it has a lot more meaning than just a plain teenager's life. That was the prediction we made before. Now we look at the title 15 and we feel it's a memorable event that happened at the age of 15. And the reason why it happens instead of happened is because when you're talking about literature, you keep it in present tense. But this memorable event that happens at the age of 15 is viewed with the new realization. So as an adult now, the persona is able to realize that it wasn't a mere game of cowboys riding their horses and having adventures. It was probably closer to life and death, the situation where the rider tumbles off the bike and injures himself. Thank you for participating in this Quest support, and good luck on analyzing your poetry.